So first of all, I'd like to thank everyone who has actually put this entire event together, getting great dignitaries such as yourselves and the ones who've been in the panel earlier and who are going to be later. Because we don't get this pool of people. We actually don't get this intelligence very easily to go back and talk to and resonate the thoughts and go back and explain to each other what is it that we would like to achieve. Right? I think that's very challenging. So I really appreciate the amount of effort that's taken to build all of this together. When this conclave was put in forth and said that let's talk about digital, let's talk about artificial intelligence, and TCS being TCS, known for being a technology company, it was, for me, I felt it was something that I had to just put a presentation together, go back and talk to the various organizations, the CXOs of the world, and say, oh, this is what we can do for you digitally. But little have we gone back and we have introspected that what's been our journey so far, right? Today, when we talk about ATMs and credit cards and UPIs, once upon a time, just getting an ATM card was a big thing for us, right? We were standard in queues and lines. At least I remember my father or my grandparents standing in lines and saying, oh, I need to get my passbook updated. Or getting a passport, which was going to take me at least a month or maybe more. Month is the shortest frame that I'm talking about today. But getting a passport was like, wow, an achievement of its kind, right? From there, today, we're all talking about digital, right? Every person wants to be included with this word, be associated to this word. To some point in time, I've actually come to believe that it's the most abused word. Because none of us are getting to understand what does digital really mean. And to go back beyond this, we've started to include words like artificial intelligence, right? We're talking about machine learning. We're talking about data analytics. So here is where I really realized that we're actually doing a lot within the country and outside the country. Things have transformed. There's been a transformational journey in every spectrum of life that I have to actually ever think about, right? Artificial intelligence is a tipping point today, okay? He rightly said that there are three things that actually are playing a very important role. It's talent. Number one is talent. Number two is data. And the third one's technology. Until and unless I actually have the power of going back and combining all of this together, it's not going to be digital. It's not going to help you prove the points that we're wanting to go back and become the country that we would want to create experiences for. I listened very attentively to all the other dignitaries and speakers who were in the earlier session, and I liked the word that they were going back and saying we have changed things, we've had a transformational journey, we've gone back and looked at how things have moved progressively. But I think one thing that we've realized, or at least I have realized personally, is the experiences we are trying to introduce in each one of your lives through this transformation. And that experience is what I would say through data, right? We're combining the two of them, and which is where I see a power of analytics, I see a power of data mining, machine learning, where today if I have to go back and say, I need a 3D printing of my knee replacement surgery, how does one even think of that? Today we're doing it. Tomorrow if I'm looking at the education sector, and gone are the days when actually we used to have huge textbooks. Kids would go back in the last 10 years of question papers for their 10th exam, the 12th exam, to crack IAS. You would go crazily studying about everything. But today the content's really changed. I actually have people coming and walking up to me and saying, Ridhi, we would want to change the content for the student because every student's going to be different. Somebody would want to do in management, whereas somebody would want to become an architect and somebody may want to be a technologist. How do I produce content for that individual? And here is where we're changing the way it's moving. Here is where digitally we're moving things. It's easy to go back and say it's possible. We have a vision. But I think it's very important to go back and understand that for every vision, you also need a deployment plan. You need a plan of execution. What am I going to be doing next as a step once the vision's taken care of? We have a lot of think tank available here, right? I mean, this is not even a part of what's available, but Imagine the dignitaries here sitting here and they have so much more to share. And if all of that's been put together and tomorrow we make the whole industry and the economy boost, it's amazing. I will not shy in saying that people who are associated in the private organizations such as myself are very restricted, inhibited to go back and associate with the government services or to go back and say we want to play any role there. Because the first thing that hits us is bureaucracy, red tapeism. Excuse me, but I just want to be very, very honest here, right? And then to go back and say, oh, what am I going to get for it? Is there something that's in it for me? Because you know what? I may be staffed in a government role, but at the end of the day, I'm not getting enough money or recognition. It's very few amongst you who actually get both, right? And which is where more and more people are wanting to become private, associated to a private organization. I mean, look at this. Whilst we have people who've joined the IAS, the IFS, IPS sectors, which is a pride of our country, we actually have a larger audience or set of people or students specifically who would go back and say, you know what, I've got an offer letter from Google or have an offer letter from Amazons of the world. All the IITs or the IIMs are actually, all of them are being taken away by those organizations which are staffed in different geographies but are bringing the best, are taking away our best pool and talent. And what does that mean? Does that mean that do we not have an opportunity to contribute towards the vision of the 5 trillion digital world that we're looking in India? Or should we say that can we have a right mix or a balance of doing the two? Because at the end of the day, this is where we started our life. This is where our bases, our roots are. So I may create as much as so-called a digital unified 360-degree customer view, seamless customer experiences, wanting to make all of you look very super cool through all the innovations that's happening in the retail industry. Like today you'll be amazed to know, I actually built something very recently for one of our retailers where you no longer have to change your clothes in the changing room. All I have to do is have a smart mirror, go back and actually choose amongst everything that's available in the store and say, hey, I click this, can I have a different change of color in dress or different size? Or can I have an assisted augmented reality to go back and say, oh, I'd like to see how this furniture is placed in my kitchen, or how is my cupboard looking, right? I remember going to all the streets and the small gullies in Delhi or Bombay or everywhere to say, oh, am I going to like this? Oh, will this fit? Will this size fit? Will this paint look better? And everything's changed. I can change the look of my wall. I can change the way my fridge is going to look. I can change and I can say, hey Siri, can you find me the next best place to go and party? That's what's happened to us, right? We are getting very dependent on digitally, but we also need to equip ourselves to be ready for that change. So one message that I'd like to share with each one of you all is, don't go back assuming or conjecturing that changing this digitally or bringing or introducing artificial intelligence is going to take away your jobs or not make us very, very independent, etc. In fact, it's for us to go back and make progress. What we did 50 years ago, we're no longer doing it. Then why should we continue with the skill sets that happened or existed in certain form or sections that I only want to be I only want to be an engineer. I only want to be a doctor. I don't want to be I don't want to be a socialite anymore. I don't want to go back and bring a marketing change to some organization. Today, our generation's changing, right? And whilst we're going back and saying digitally there's a lot that has to happen, and organizations such as, like you rightly said, right? TCS, in my view, it's the #1 Indian organization today in the private sector who's actually doing all these transformational services, right? And we are including a lot of activities, a lot of things that we would want to go back and equip the digital young generation. And that's possible today because of the whole vision that the government and the private sector are seeing together. We never had this kind of conversation at least 15 years ago. I don't remember any government coming and saying, hey, private organizations, what are you going to do for our youth today? We only go back and report the employment index number. But we don't go back and talk about the kind of skill sets that it takes to employ such people. We don't go back and talk about that, how am I going to prepare my audience for the next level or the next generation that's going to completely transform your services. We're talking about driverless cars. We're talking about unarmed vehicles like the drones. But how many of us are actually pushing towards our newer generation to go back and learn about these technologies and make it simpler? The idea is not to complicate things. The idea is to make things more simpler, and that's why digital interventions done together. So today when I hear all these examples, in my view, it's just two things. Customer experience, and that's for me is you, because you're an experience. You're getting that experience in every walk of your life, and making things simple for you. And concentrating towards those things which are important and being able to make value out of it. Your outcomes, like I heard earlier, is very important. Your outcomes are always important for everything. We as organizations always have a goal metrics. You've got to have SMART goals, you're supposed to achieve them, you're supposed to have a result-oriented deployment index, you're supposed to go back and say, what was the business outcome for it? How much do we go back and actually do this with an association with the government, such as the BJP government, with Mr. Modi's vision, with private organizations going back and saying, hey, that's also our thought process. So I think it's a good time, a very good opportunity, an extremely important platform that the two whole big mammoth, if I have to use the word elephant or giants, are combining together for a better digital nation, because that's what we're aiming towards. Thank you.